This is the story of one man's rise through the halls of greatness. Our hero was born of Stygian descent in the northern regions of Calradia. Actually, he was Botanian and he was a forest dude. He liked trees and lawn walks with deer. He was a man of great stature. Or perhaps he was a woman.
Side by side!
Nope, he was definitely a man. And through random fluke, our man was very handsome. Do you think we should restart this?
No, just keep going.
Okay. Our hero had a voice that could make women swoon and men tremble.
Charge!
And he was very tall. He was born into a family of bards. His father was a bard, drifting from chieftain's hall to chieftain's hall, making his living singing the praises of one Botanian aristocrat and mocking his enemies, then going to his enemy's hall and doing the reverse. Our hero learnt young that having a clever tongue could spare you from a life of toiling in the fields. As a child, he always had an aptitude for numbers, far beyond the most rudimentary education. He could count all 7 fingers on one hand, and like all village children, he often hunted small game. Sold produce at the market. Hunted small game. Sold produce at the market. As a youngster growing up in Calradia, war was never too far away, and he joined the skirmishers. Younger recruits of a slighter build, or who were too poor to buy a shield and armor, tended to join the skirmishers. Skirmishers fought with bows and javelins and stayed out of reach of the main enemy forces. Before even reaching the age of adventure, he had saved a whole village from a flood. Like many families in Calradia, his life was upended by war. His father, mother, brother, and 2 younger siblings set off to a new town they heard was safer, but they did not make it. But on the way, the inn was attacked and his parents were slain. His 2 younger siblings seized. Him and his brother survived because he encouraged a few travelers in the inn to break out in a coordinated fashion. Raiders killed or captured most, but him and his brother escaped. And so begins the great tale of our hero. Melvin. The road was perilous. More perilous. The most perilous road there was. And death was permanent.
You think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, he's a hero. His not-so-hero brother brought him to a training field.
Brother, blah 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 blah. How are we gonna rescue them? Perhaps we should do some training.
Now, our hero did not need training, but he did care to humor his brother's request. Melvin decided he would show his brother he was more than a proficient horse archer. And as he mounted the horse provided, he knew he would not miss a single target. With perfect accuracy, he nailed target after target. Flawlessly. Ne'er a man anywhere that ever seen the marksmanship or horsemanship that was seen this day. I'd love to tell you that he could hear the men cheering behind, but he was moving too fast, faster than the speed of sound. As he roundabout to the end of the course, people were tired from cheering so much, and their cheers had fallen silent.
Your horse archerymanship is beyond compare,
His brother said.
but I fear you may not be so proficient with a sword.
And so our hero took up a sword and shield. And entered the ring, demonstrating he knew all the moves. He was truly fearless. He knew he must prove to his brother that he was flawless in his movement.
Let me show you my best move. The lawnmower.
He said, as the trainer trembled.
Melvin! 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 This is a blocking tutorial.
His brother yelled, but it was futile. Melvin was in the moment. Finally, he read the prompt.
Oh, this is a blocking tutorial.
Melvin cried. Our hero was far too advanced in his skills for tutorials of this kind, and so he moved on to the combat training, where he chose a sword and shield. A spear and shield. Yeah. big-ass sword. He knew it didn't matter what weapon he chose. With his secret move, the lawnmower, he was destined to be triumphant. But it wasn't working. This man had been trained in anti-lawnmower maneuvers, so our hero pulled out his greatest weapon in his arsenal, the walk-backwards lawnmower. But that was quickly countered as well, and so our hero went into the 360 lawnmower.
For glory!
There was a revolution of combat this day as everyone marveled at Melvin's combat prowess. When it was all but sure that Melvin would be triumphant, the worst happened. His opponent cheated and started hitting as well.
I'll split your throat.
Despite the trainer cheating, Melvin still came out victorious. Our hero was not deterred. He realized he may be able to use a little bit of blocking practice. And so came to fruition the best piece of swordsmanship Calradia had ever seen. Melvin was quick to show off his impenetrable blocking techniques. Being a master of both offense and defense with a sword, Melvin decided to leave the training. But not before he took another round with the man who had humiliated him. He was sure to win. He was bound to win. Victorious, he gathered his brother and left the training field.
Brother, there's a town north of here and we're low on food.
His brother said, and so they gathered their things and headed the long trip to Tevia. They rode day and day to make it to Tevia, ne'er a stop for rest or sleep.
We're here, I guess, so we need food, and after that, some men to come with us. The headman here can probably help us. Let's try to find him.
His brother said, as a flute rang out from the heavens. Now our hero was still amped up from his great training, and when he saw the pigs, he couldn't help but try to kick the bacon. Hey, it works. He can actually kick the pigs. Look. He headed towards the headsman's house. He had never been in this village, and it may take a minute to find. And that's when he saw her, the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She played coy and pretended to not take interest. And when he spoke with her, she had much to say. He could tell she regarded him deeply and enjoyed his scent. The other woman in the village looked on enviously.
See that guy? He's like 2 feet tall.
Our hero was not put off by the small comments of the people around town. On the way to the headman, he stopped and helped a farmer look at baskets, and taught some local kids how to walk along a rock wall. He spoke with some local Empire peasants.
What's up?
And he helped a local woman look for something. Turns out she had lost her favorite cow, which she ended up finding in a tree. After much searching, our hero stopped for lunch.
Brother, I fear we may never find the headman. Life is hard.
Melvin said.
Compared to what?
His brother replied. And so our hero was renewed in his quest. He was going to find the headman, even if he had to walk up this hill to do it. You see, our hero had no bounds or limitations in his determination to finish what he had started. So he walked right up that hill, and he spoke with a man who happened to be really stoned and carrying some apples. And then he saw him in the distance. There he was, Headman Xenon. He explained to Headman Xenon that some raiders had taken his younger brother and sister captive. It turns out this village also had issues with these raiders. Headman Xenon explained that there's many in this town that would join him should he provide money for their tooling. And so he and his brother headed back down to the town square to recruit some of the locals to help them in their endeavor. The lady still hadn't got her cow down from the tree, and the pig was now recruiting an army of chickens to fight the kicker.
He's right behind you.
The pig's recruitment plans were dashed, and the chickens acted like nothing was happening. But as soon as the hero turned his back, the chickens charged. That's when Melvin realized the road was going to be perilous. They took to getting out of town as fast as possible. They knew the south-north road across the bridge was the safest way out of town. A short way out of town, they stopped for some rest at a campsite that was left behind by some traveling grass merchants. His brother was stoic on his horse. He was about to speak with him about life's greater meaning when he saw it. It was a floating log, obviously some kind of witchcraft. He threatened it with his fists, then his sword, then his throwing axes. But the log wouldn't leave. Courageously he jousted it with his sword, and he slayed a beast with all his training, all his might. He slayed a beast that was the flying log. And he turned around and he got on his horse and they left town for good. Or so they thought. Once they'd hired a few troops, Headman Xenon wanted to speak with them again. He told them of a doctor named Tactios that was carrying a weird chest and had disappeared a few days ago.
We like that doctor. We's fond of him.
Now all 5'2" of Melvin stirred. He knew this chest must contain something great.
What do you think's in the chest?
I don't know, but with the way he speaks about it, I hope it's too Tickle Me Elmos in a first-generation NES.
With that kind of value, the hero knew he had to be quick. He knew as soon as the raiders arrived at the first medieval pawn shop that Nintendo Entertainment System would be sold. And that's when he saw his future wife, the lady in red. He flexed as he passed by. She pretended not to notice, but he knew differently. He knew she'd want to see both biceps, but he just couldn't figure it out. And then it dawned on him. A right bicep
We
flex.
should really keep moving.
He now knew how. And she was clearly impressed.
She wants me.
After many great displays of muscular prowess, our hero left town. They had amassed a great army, and they were determined to find their brother and sister. And so they rode the raiders down. They met on a great field, and the men drew their swords. Our leader decided to give a motivational speech.
All right, men. Not all of you will survive this. But I will. Let's do stuff! Yeah!
Attack!
Melvin readied his throwing axes, and taking the lead of the charge, bravely, he battled.
Oh, they're chasing me!
With precision accuracy, he threw every axe he had and straight into the head of his enemies. Some say the field was red with blood, but those who know better know it was red with the skill pouring out of Melvin. The bandits looked for escape, but there was none to be had. They were here now, and they were doomed.
Yeah, I hit one!
With years of talent and training clearly showing, Melvin struck everyone down. Some say it was the greatest battle ever fought. It truly was nothing less than mythical. And against all odds, Melvin had led his men to their first of many victories. It was a spectacle of renown, and no one was surprised.
I can't believe we won.
More raiders were spotted south of them. With no rest, Melvin charged them. With great vengeance and endless bloodlust, there was no time for speeches this time. Melvin led the charge. He was gonna save his brother and sister. He was gonna bring the world to peace. He was gonna throw axes farther and faster than anyone had ever done before.
Yeah, take that,
And he
you.
was gonna do it from the back of this horse. Being a master tactician, Melvin had devised a great strategy. He would play dead till these bandits turned their backs. It had worked. The bandits were scattered, confused. You see, what he had realized is, if he always took all the glory in the kills, how would his men ever learn how to fight? His plan had worked. His men now also had the confidence to pull a fight. It was another flawless victory. They cornered the remaining raiders on a bridge nearby.
Hey guys, we
These
got a
raiders
corner.
too would soon be on the pointy end of a sword. He called out the charge.
Die, you pig!
The men rallied and charged.
Yeah, the best!
Melvin pulled his throwing axes and threw it straight in the head of the nearest bandit.
got that one too.
You see, what the bandits failed to realize is banditry never pays.
He's got an axe butt.
And Melvin sliced them all down that day. All by himself. One tried to hide in a bush, but Melvin was good at math and knew he was there.
I'll tear your limbs.
Melvin
Not if I
entered the
don't
greatest
have
duel ever fought and won. It was a great victory. The ground once again red with skill. They had rescued some prisoners, and among them Tactios, the doctor they had spoke of, who told them of a bandit camp slightly north of the field.
You can fix an arrow to the knee, but you can't fix this face.
Tactios told him of the great artifact that he was carrying with him that the bandit leader had taken to his camp to the north. They would conquer this bandit camp, but first they would need some rest and to spread word of his great victories. Melvin got right to showing the villagers how great he was.
Everybody, come see how good I
For
look.
surely, a mere doctor such as Tactios could not truly make the people understand how great Melvin was. When he arrived in town, everyone was celebrating his
Yeah,
greatness,
I'm pretty much the best.
but he would need some sleep before he continued his journey.